Hey my friends, it's your boy Banner and welcome to another episode of Try Bonsai. Today my friends are going to do a little bit of pruning on this experiment that I'm trying here. And what this experiment is that I have done an air layer on a Brazilian rain tree. And I did several air layers on one particular tree, creating more from it. Just to give you an example, yeah, this is one. Just showing you one of them, and it's doing well. But what is happening? This particular area, because of the branch, and I don't mean to segue, but I'm trying to give as much explanation as possible. Because when I am doing areas, I tend to look at the branch and the structure and try to envision what it may look like in the future. And sometimes, my friends, when you don't see it, somebody else will see it and they could advise you. So in this case, when I was about to do this earlier, to be very fair and to be very honest, my friend Errol said, hey, that might look good as a raft because of how the branch going. So I looked at it again, and I looked and I said yes. So I took it off as an air layer, and I have since been growing this as a raft. Now, the last time you saw it, I would have done some pruning, and as I'm turning it around, some branches have grown quite vigorously. And it's a situation where, my friends, I am really and truly struggling for some space because sunlight is becoming an even bigger issue than I already had. Yeah, but that's another topic. Now, the plan today is to prune this back and continuously develop the shape. And while I'm doing that, I have to start looking for a potential pot. Now, what that would also do is it would also put me into, or push me into, a direction where I may have to delve into a different set of artwork by way of making a pot for this. Never make a pot before, but I have several things that I believe I should make special pots for them because of their design and what would look good, because sometimes the conventional pots don't necessarily match up with what you have in mind. Sometimes it needs something a little more unconventional, something a little more natural looking. If all you're following me, if we're on the same page. So that's a lot of introduction talk. So what is happening today? As I said, I am going to prune this back, not into shape, but it is still developing. I want to prune it back so that it develops the shape that we want in the future, because everything is playing it forward. Yeah. So we're going to remove some of these long extending branches and whatnot. And for those who are not aware, this Brazilian rain tree grows from cuttings. So if I so choose, I could try to create cuttings from some of these branches that are going to prune back, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so with that said, my friends, let me disco. And hopefully, while we discoing, I don't make this an overly long video like the last one. The last one was real tempo. And just as a side point, real side points that they do, I want to show you the air layer that I would have, one of the air layers that I would have taken off of that ironwood. So stay tuned for that. So again, let me just go. So just to give you a more in-depth look at the tree itself, and I know you can't see much because of all of the growth that is happening around it. This is the bark of it. And if I put my hand apart, you're going to see through it. And I have this branch that comes out this way. And I think I'm trying to foster this growth going up here to create something up here. Now, I could possibly try to use wire to raise it just a bit, but I don't know. I don't know. Coming around, we have this little fellow here that I put a little bit of wire on, but he is heavily shaded and not doing so well, and the sun is glaring in my eyes, so I'm not even sure what you're seeing. Coming to this side now, as I raise the foliage, you could see straight down inside, and everybody has something of a bit of space so that you could see them clearly. And you have this guy as well doing that push out, and maybe it might work as is. You know, it's a Raft style, it's an artistic choice, right? Coming around to this side, heavily covered by foliage, which is where we started, and that is it. So with that, my friends, let's get to some pruning. So what I'm doing, my friends, I'm removing some of the older cut points that I've healed over, and I am tackling each branch using primarily the clip and grow process. Now this branch comes up and it is quite vigorous, and I'm wondering if I need this as part of the composition. I'm not entirely sure. So when you have doubts, you prune back to a safe enough distance and you leave it for further thought, right? When in doubt, take a different route. And that may mean tabling that particular thought for probably a later date. But while I'm taking that approach, I am still pruning back, giving it that pruning to leaves pointing in directions that I want the next branch to go. Because the rule or the thought process is that behind each leaf node, there's a dormant bud. So when you prune back, leaving a bit of room for dieback, a little bit of room for dieback, when you prune back to a leaf, the next branch to come out will go in the direction that the leaf is pointing in. Yeah? So, continuing on with this tree. And the thing is, I want to make sure that things are fanning out, but not in a way that would obstruct the other trees. And this particular piece of work is a little bit more complex than doing a singular tree, because you have multiple trees or multiple shoots coming up within a close proximity, and you need to ensure that you could compact the growth so that each tree grows, each branch, and if it were a forest or a grouping, would grow individually, gaining the level of sunlight that they need to survive properly, and maintaining the branch structure that you set out to create. Now, if you're looking to let things go by natural attrition, well, that's a different matter. So I kind of pruned up this one, and I'm moving on to this fellow here that is in your full view. I'm going to remove this branch here because it kind of coming in my face a bit. And I hear. So what I want to do, and wow, sun is out, sweat is in my eyes. And what do I want? I have a branch coming out here. But do I want to go there? No. I'm going to come back here, pruning this back quite short. And I want to come here. And why so high? It's because I want to create a pad here. Well, not a pad here, a tree separating and onto itself here. So that is the idea. So we're going to go around the tree, go around the planting, doing some directional pruning. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at it. Okay, my friends, so as I bring you in a bit closer to see what I've done, and I would have pruned back a number of long extending bits and also removed some branches that were growing underneath in places that I don't want. And I'm still removing stuff because, you know, you're seeing things that could cause problems in the future. Wow, camera work kind of went a little bit awry there because I'm holding the camera in my hand and doing work at the same time. But ideally, this is what I did, opening up the space a bit so you could see through a bit more. And I pruned back to basic shapes so that things could be created from the basic shapes. So let me know. Yes, it still looks a little bit on the bushy side. And I'm wondering if I should take this off and leave this alone to develop. If that would make sense. I'm looking at this branch here and this branch coming up here. If I were to take the back one off, how would it look without it? I'm not really convinced to take that back one off just yet, because I'm not seeing it as being too much of a nuisance to this little fellow here. This is it here, my friends. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me show you, as I just promised, because I didn't show it in the last video. Let me show you the air layer from the top of the Brazilian ironwood that I repotted in the last video. Hold on. So my friends, whether or not you want to believe it, this is the top of the Brazilian ironwood, my first ever Brazilian ironwood tree. This is the top of it. Of course, it has grown quite a bit from where it was, but the reason I took it off was because it had, because of these two branches here, it created reverse taper. And I saw an opportunity to get an air layer and take it off and make this into a tree onto itself. Now this cut point here was also an air layer that I did, and I gifted it to my friend Kenny, who creates concrete pots. Here is another air layer, and that air layer is resting quite well by my friend Andel. So this is that top. I like it. Nice to bad boy. Look how thick this is becoming. Thick and nice. Alright, that is it for today. So my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so very, very much for joining me here on Try Bonsai. Of course, I do a lot of work off camera as well. I don't record every single thing that I do. And that is because sometimes I like working with a sense of peace, a sense of quiet, without having to explain and talk. And it happens. It happens. I am sure that a lot of people do their things without broadcasting what they're doing to maintain some levels of peace. And this is what bonsai is to me. It brings a sense of peace. It brings a sense of calm. Yes, I love sharing what I do. I do love sharing what I do. But sometimes I need a 2 minutes for me too. And everybody should take a 2 minutes for themselves to make sure that, your wellness is intact. Yeah? Anyways, my friends, like, subscribe, comment, share. Those likes help. The likes has help push the channel much further. The comments allow for us to dialogue and talk about some of the things that I would have done and, gain some suggestions. Sweat in my eye. Ooh, it's very hot. Get some really nice suggestions or have some really nice discussions on things that I would have done that you may have seen, that you may see differently. Share with folks, that may benefit from the work that I'm doing from the standpoint that I'm doing it at. And if you haven't subscribed already, now is a good time to do so. Anyways, as I usually say, be good to yourself. Be good to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. And remember that our climate is our responsibility. We have an opportunity to change it for the better. If not for ourselves, let's do it for the future generations. Okay? So on that note, I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.